Welcome to Baking for Change. I'm your host, Wendy Pauls, and a little bit later in the program, I'm going to tell you a little more about who we are and an exciting new venture that we're going to be revealing. But I don't want you to wait any longer because I'm super excited about today's guest chef baker. You're both, right?
A little bit of both, yes.
A little bit of both. Today we have with us Daniela Sfara.
Brava.
Did I pronounce that?
You absolutely did. I'm so impressed. Oh my gosh.
Amazing. So I'm going to let her tell us a little bit about what we're going to be making today. I definitely at some point want to share where people can find you and find this delicious stuff.
Of course.
So
Absolutely.
Tell us, what are we going to be making today?
Well, thank you, first of all. And I'm so excited to be here with you today because you're going to get to try all of this delicious stuff.
I'm so excited.
So, my name is Daniella. Yes, I am a chef and a baker as well. I learned to cook and bake since I was a wee little thing before I needed a phone book to stand on the table or on the chair, really. And I learned from my mom, my grandmother, and all the amazing young at heart women from north to south across Italy throughout my many travels there. And today, what we are making is one of my favorite things. And one of my favorite things is a crostata. In English, that would be a tart. So we're going to go through the entire process. And why it's one of my favorites is because throughout my years of baking as a personal chef, I like to share with people the very authentic Italian dishes.
So Daniela, when you're not here teaching us how to make these delicious desserts, tell us where you are, what you're doing, where can we find you and more of your delicious cooking?
Oh my God, thank you for asking, and great question. So I do something that is so unique, so different. I actually have a trattoria in my home. What does that mean? That you can actually reserve to come and enjoy a home-cooked, authentic Italian dinner in my home, at my table. So I prepare every dish just like Nonna did. I prepare every dish the way I was taught when I was little. And it is such a blessing to be able to share the true snippets of Italy with people at my table. So that's what I do. You can find me at danielasfara.com. And you can also find me on Instagram at Daniela Sfara. And I warn you, it's a delicious page. So just realize that I have forewarned you about that.
So we've got a few things today, but our main feature is right here. So do you want to tell us a little bit about this?
Yes, so excited. So in the Italian culture and cuisine tradition, most often we assume that there's another dessert that is the oldest and most traditional. This here is a crostata. Crostata is the oldest dessert, and peaches, because it's peach season and they're so beautiful and I absolutely love it.
So today we're making a peach tart. I'm going to cheat and use the easy word.
I forgive you. Okay.
But we're going to work on the dough together.
Yes.
But the filling has a peach jam.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So
is this what we've got here?
That is exactly what it is. Isn't it so beautiful? And I can smell it from here. Oh my gosh. So we visited a peach farm, and you're going to see a little bit later all the amazing ways that you can harvest your own peaches, take a tour at a peach farm. But yes, absolutely. So pick the peaches, very simple. I used to watch my grandmother do this all the time. She would peel them, put them in a pot with some sugar, a little bit of lemon zest, and let it just cook down into a very natural jam. You can preserve it, you could do so many things with it, and later we'll show you the other desserts we've made with it. Buongiorno a tutti. Hi, my name is Daniela Sfara, and with me is
Jack Romanoli
from Romagnoli Farms. So later you're going to see in the kitchen a few beautiful things that I'm making from Romagnoli's products, but I wanted to show you some very special things because I'm all about tradition, I'm all about history, I'm all about culture, and of course food and Italian food. And the reason we're at Romagnoli Farms is because they have a beautiful story of tradition and culture. Jack, tell us a little bit about Nonna and Nonno.
Sure.
Where did they come from?
They came from Abruzzi.
Yep. And when did they arrive to Toronto?
About the turn of the century. Yeah,
Wow.
so that's amazing. Eh? The grandfather came in 1899. He arrived into Toronto after going to Brazil for a couple of years, getting to some misfortune there.
Oh my gosh.
And then in 1902 he came to Toronto, and he ordered his wife to come with him a couple of years later.
Story, and that's Enriqueta, vero?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And she came a couple of years later from the same little village.
Small town of Chieti in
yeah.
Abruzzo.
Rocco San Giovanni.
Yep, beautiful.
And then they dreamt of having a farm. And they lived in Toronto for a couple of years, and then 1919 they made the leap to Beamsville, which was a big step. They were the first Italian family in Beamsville, and it was different then, eh?
It was very different
Yeah, it was
then,
a
I'm
different
sure.
time.
I don't know, obviously.
Neither do I.
So when they arrived here, and this is very interesting because a lot of Italians are about agriculture and growing their own fruits and vegetables to produce a lot of the foods. Was this farm here, or did they plant themselves?
Excellent question. There's a lot of little details there. So they bought a vineyard
Yeah.
that had orchards as well as part of it. And then over time, Grandpa started bringing other trees in from different parts of Italy and making changes. He wanted to grow peaches. After my father purchased the farm from my grandfather, I also purchased more farms in the area and expanded the operation. So it went from originally 15 acres to about 100 acres now.
Small.
Yeah. It's small for a farm, but for a fruit farm, there's thousands and thousands of trees, eh?
For someone that lives in the city, it's extremely massive. So yes, okay.
It requires lots of bodies. We have like 30 full-time employees.
That's amazing.
Peaches are a big part of our crop. Cherries, strawberries, apricots, plums, nectarines. I go on and on and on. Tomatoes, all the good stuff.
And it's all fantastic because I've actually been purchasing for many years from you. So
Really?
it's all
Good.
incredible fruit and produce, extremely fresh and wonderful. But we're here today for the peaches, and it sings to my soul because this is something that brings me back to childhood as well. Nonna, after every lunch or dinner, would take peaches during their season and cut them with that one particular knife that is the everything knife in every Italian home, and she would just slice them, not peel them, and put them in her wine, and that was the most flavorful thing I've ever tasted. And it just ignites so many beautiful memories for me.
The wine or the peaches?
Both.
Okay.
And Jack has those very peaches right here. So we're going to tell you a little bit about those particular peaches, and these are extremely Italian peaches. So obviously I enjoy them, but I want you to enjoy them as well.
That's true. These are called clingstone. And they're actually the variety called Katharina. They're yellow flesh. They're firm. They're juicy. They're really sweet, but they're more crunchy than they are soft and mushy.
And they're so gorgeous too. Is this one
Yeah,
perfect
pick one.
for picking?
Yeah.
And so we twist it and then
twist
pull
and
it.
pull.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to cut it in half.
I
or
would
not.
love to cut it in half. So can we taste it?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, and you've got the Italian knife too. That's why you were laughing. That's amazing.
So yeah, when you open this thing up, give it a good twist.
Yep.
It's nice and bright yellow inside.
Beautiful. May I?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
Some people like to peel them, but you know what? It's got that firmness, sweetness, texture.
There's a stunning crunch to it. It has such a beautiful taste.
There's fragrance too, eh? Yeah, there's fragrance.
Beautiful. And so this is perfect, correct me if I'm wrong, for canning, for making lots of desserts, for enjoying in wine.
Yeah. Yeah, the good thing about these is they're considered from an commercial industry standard, non-melting flesh. So when you cook them, preserve them, heat them up, they don't go mushy. They keep their texture.
Amazing. We know Romagnoli has beautiful peaches, but they also have stunning tomatoes, lots of different varieties as you can see, garlic, onions, beautiful variations of beans, cabbage, and lots of other produce for you to enjoy at home with your family.
You guys are going to want to make this at home. So please know that we're going to have the ingredients listed on the website. Because I know if I looked at this, I might be slightly intimidated. Do I need to be intimidated?
Absolutely not. And I have a little surprise for you.
Ooh, I'm so excited.
Good.
Okay, Daniela, tell us what is in this recipe.
Okay, so for the crust, we have flour, butter, eggs, sugar, vanilla. You can also use a lemon rind if you prefer, and baking powder. And then, of course, the homemade jam.
So I'm here to help today, if I can be of service. I know when we're talking like cooking, there's a sous chef, but is there a title for it in baking? A sous baker?
Well, at my house, to be honest, there's no real sous anything because Nonna did everything, Mama did everything, and it was always the one person that did everything in the kitchen.
Okay.
So it's very much the same in my house as well.
Okay. Well, whatever you want to call me, just tell me what to do. I'm happy to help.
So that's my surprise. Actually, I baked all this stuff yesterday, and because you did say this is easy enough to bake at home, which I guarantee it is, I want you to see Wendy bake everything today.
Ooh.
So I'm going to just
Pressure's
put the
on.
ingredients in.
Okay.
You're going to take care of the rest because
Amazing.
I'm kind of tired from baking all day yesterday.
Okay,
Awesome.
let's do this.
Okay, so I'm actually your sous chef then.
Oh, perfect.
Amazing.
I like this.
Okay.
I'm feeling important.
Okay, so we'll start in order, and there is typically an order to things, but remember, back then there was no mixing of dry and wet ingredients. It was all together, so no separation. So we're going to just do it exactly the way Nonna did, and you will taste the very beauty that she would have made. Okay, so we're going to start you off with your flour.
Okay.
So I'll help you by pouring the ingredients in.
I appreciate your help.
Very welcome.
Yeah.
And then we will add the butter in, so you can
So
do this.
not melted.
Not melted.
But it's
It
also
is-
not cold.
Correct. It is
Okay.
at room temperature.
All right. Room
Now,
temp.
the other thing is Nonna never used a mixer or blender. Everything was by hand. And perhaps a wooden spoon every now and again, but otherwise, your hands are the best
Oh,
utensils.
gosh. Yeah, but you're not going to ask me to get my hands in there right now, are you?
Maybe next time.
Maybe next time. Yes. I warned you earlier that I am a very messy baker.
You're doing great
so
so far.
I'm going to try not to like fling this all over the kitchen because we are being recorded. So
I mean, there is soap if we have to wash our hands
Okay.
and the kitchen.
All right.
But I think you're doing pretty great so far, so we're good.
okay.
Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to add our sugar.
Everything needs a little bit of sugar.
Everything does.
Love it. Okay.
And then from there, we're going to add the eggs. And you're going to see the recipe list later and the ingredient list later. So we will go over all of that. But right now, we're just going to add all the ingredients together.
Okay.
So we've got 2 eggs here. I'm going to crack and add 1 whole egg for you. And then 1 yolk.
So far, this is not terribly difficult.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm getting a little bit of an arm workout on one side. If you want to jump in, if you're like, oh my gosh, the way she's stirring that is making me, then you feel free, you know.
No,
I
I'm
know
really
you're-
enjoying my break right now.
Oh, good. Okay. Because I know you're lovely and particular, which I'm sure comes through in your
Great
baking
word.
and
Thank you, Wendy.
cooking.
I'll take that as a compliment.
It is a compliment. That's how it was intended.
So we're going to add the vanilla now for you.
Okay. And of course, this is real vanilla.
It is absolutely real vanilla, yes.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
You can even smell it.
Oh, you
Yeah.
can smell it. It is, you should smell it.
And now we've got the beautiful baking powder in there.
Okay. How are we doing? How are we
We're doing great. That looks amazing. And I'm telling you, she's not a messy baker. Do not believe what she says.
I am. She had everything pre-measured. Otherwise, there would be just disaster all over the place.
Do you want me to take over for a minute?
Yes.
Oh,
See?
my
See?
goodness.
Spoke too soon.
That's okay.
See?
That
there
is
you
okay.
Go. There you go.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I'm
get
going
in
to
there,
take
get it.
over, but I'm going to take
Okay.
over the way Nonna would have taken
Okay.
over.
Oh, see, she's getting right in there. Yeah.
So we're going to do this a minute. And this is the
Okay.
best way. And so your hands are the best utensils to use. And so there's a little bit of a technique with this. Initially, what you're going to do is you're going to use the fingers to amalgamate all of the ingredients together in the bowl.
Amalgamate. That's a big word.
Okay.
Okay, so you could tell by feel that you needed to add just a little bit more flour. So how could you tell?
Okay, so there's really no one particular answer. And so you're going to use eggs, for example. Not all eggs are the exact same size. So even going from a medium to a large egg is going to determine that you're going to need a little bit more, a little bit less flour, etc. And so intuitive cooking is the absolute best way, and also intuitive baking, of course, is the best way to actually be able to do things. And so we're going to add a little bit more flour still, because I do need just a touch more, and my hands are dirty, but that's a sign of a great baker. So we'll get it to a gorgeous consistency, and then what we're going to do is actually let it sit for a little bit before we start rolling.
So we've let the dough rest a bit.
Yes.
And now look at this beautiful dough. I'm going to take full credit, even though I did have help. And now we're going to be rolling it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
My favorite part.
Let's do this. Show us how it's done.
Okay, now with any dough, obviously, I would assume that many of you know this already at home. We are going to dust our surface first.
Never assume that we know things.
Okay, fair enough. Although I will tell you, I'm taking you to my house one day, and we are going to bake and cook together for a full meal.
Okay,
and then I won't be able to assume anything with you anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll see how messy I actually am.
I don't believe that you are.
Yeah, no, I am.
Okay. So.
You could ask my husband. He does my cleanup for me while I'm making the mess.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so what we're going to do is we've cut half of it, and we are going to be, I know I'm moving, sorry. And this is the CROSTATA tray that we are going to be using for it. So I'll leave that off to the side for a minute. And we are going to start rolling. So there's a couple of things to look for. In the center of the rolling pin is where you're actually going to start, because if you start from here, you're putting way too much pressure on this side, and so you're going to be gentle, because what we want to do is we want to stretch the dough out, not make it too thin. We want it to be a beautiful thickness. Remember that crostata is a tart, and so you want that flakiness of the dough, and that's the best way to get it, by just being gentle with your dough and just be good and kind to it.
So I did not know that. I thought you can always just roll from the outside. So I'm learning things already.
Okay, so another one thing that I want to share with you is this rolling pin. So not just this, but any rolling pin. Sometimes what's going to happen is when you're rolling over it, if you haven't totally dusted the flour over it, what's going to end up happening is you'll notice little pieces of the dough actually picking up on here. When you roll back over it, it'll cause an indentation. So to make sure that you've got a beautiful smooth surface, just make sure you've got it beautifully floured, so that it doesn't stick to the pin or to your surface that you're rolling it on.
Okay, so we're getting ready to put it in the pan.
Yes.
Oh, this is 2 pieces.
Yes.
Peekaboo.
Yeah. So what we're gonna...
and I love what you're doing here. This is a trick that I didn't know about.
This is a nonna tip. So whether you're making pasta or whether you're making a dough of any kind or a pastry of any kind, nonna would always roll this. And then what you're gonna do is exactly that. Lay that down for me. And then you are going to roll it back.
Wow.
Now, with my dough, I love, especially with a crostata, I love a very flaky, soft pastry.
Me too.
And so, yeah, so I usually add a little bit more butter and a little bit less flour, just so I can get that consistency. And now here's another little tip for you. Instead of cutting it, go over it with the rolling pin, and it will just detach. Now, one thing is, do not worry about perfection. Honestly, the less perfect it is, the more beautiful it is. And so don't worry about the imperfections. Look at this. There's going to be space. Just take an extra little piece of dough and just fill it in. There is nothing that Nonna did that was always perfect, except for the flavor of everything and the experience of sitting at the table and enjoying it. And this is one of my favorite treats with an espresso or a tea. And so there you go. Now there is another trick I am going to teach you. And it's not necessarily a trick for a lot of people, but it is for so many people. So we want the dough to be airy and light. And so we're just going to take a fork and poke a few holes in there so that when we bake it in the oven, it can just get a little more flavorful because of the air.
Oh, I love that.
There we go. So now you can pour in the homemade jam.
Okay, all of it is going in, or no, not necessarily?
Well, let's just see how it goes. Okay. Again, we're doing intuitive baking, so that looks good so far, and then we'll see if we need more.
Okay. Just spreading that around. Oh my gosh, the smell, you guys. You can't believe it.
Did you want to taste it?
I would love to taste it. Okay, how are we? Oh, yep. So we have some extra. I can actually taste this.
Absolutely.
All right, here we go. I love this. Oh my gosh.
What do you think? What do you taste?
Peaches.
Yes.
How much can I taste?
All of it.
This is like applesauce, but peach
version
sauce.
Absolutely.
Guess that makes sense.
And it's all natural. It's healthy for you. It's amazing. I remember as a child, my mother used to make all of these beautiful preserves, and we would add it to so many things. She would use it to baking ingredients. Sometimes we would just have that with a different dessert. She would make a beautiful custard.
On ice cream?
On ice cream, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
In cakes.
Delicious. Okay, so half of the dough was used for the bottom.
Correct.
And you've rolled out the other half now to make these strips.
Absolutely.
Is that where we are? Okay.
Yes, perfect. Okay. So now we're going to put these on, and just a little bit of a decor, I would imagine. And then we can actually bake it.
Ooh, the good part.
The good part.
Actually, no, the good part is the eating part.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is coming soon.
Yes. Okay, so we are done. We're just going to press the edges, and then we're going to get rid of all the extra. Now, these pieces here, do you throw them out? Do you waste them? Let me tell you something. I remember as a child, my mother and my grandmother would give me heck if we wasted anything. So they would take this and they would make cookies with them, or they would make something else with them. So no waste is extremely important, and there's so many reasons why, and we don't need to get into all of them right now, but just remember that so many somebodies were at the backside of every single ingredient that went into this. So we try to respect and honor absolutely every step of the way. And so I want to make sure that I do my part in not wasting anything. And why would I want to waste anything that's so delicious anyways? So
absolutely not.
And now we're ready for the oven.
So what's the temperature and how long are we baking this?
Of course. So I will start by saying that it depends on the size that you use. So for this particular one, and for most crostata, you're going to look at about 355 degrees for approximately 40-45 minutes. Okay. Again, intuitive baking. So sort of keep an eye on it. Set your timer for the shortest time, and then bake for longer if you have to. Keep an eye on it. Do not open the oven door, but just keep an eye on it and see what it looks like.
Baking for Change is a weekly show produced by Goodie Goodie. We're going to be bringing in some of Canada's best bakers, like Daniella here, and they're going to share some of their favorite recipes, and you can bake along with us at home. But the Baking for Change name means more than just baking. Yes. The change part is about sharing some change to make a change, and we're asking if you would consider making a small donation to UNICEF Canada.
Wendy, where can I make that donation?
Right on the Baking for Change website, bakingforchange.ca. There's a link there. It's simple, and we're just asking for small donations.
So I'm all about change. I'm all about making a positive impact. I get emotional for it. So I'm going to go on the site right now. I'm going to make a donation, and I hope you do too.
Okay, so about $3.55 for approximately 40-45 minutes.
40-45 minutes.
For this size.
Correct, okay. Absolutely. And the one interesting thing, though, is, and this is something that I learned from my grandmother and my mother as a child, you will be able to smell when it's ready.
Ooh, okay.
And that's with anything. It's not just a tart. It's even with bread. You can actually smell when it's starting to golden brown to the point that it's actually ready to be removed from the oven.
Perfect. So here's the finished product of what we made today.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to taste it. But before we do, there's some other things that you mentioned earlier that we could make using some of the same dough, same ingredients. So why don't you talk to us about these other items?
For sure. So you already know that we made the jam that went into the crostata, and you already know that we made the pastry, which you made actually. So thank you, Wendy. And
no problem.
So, so there's a few things, and you can sort of create your own dessert, or you can sort of take from traditional desserts as well. So that same crostata dough, which is the tart dough, is very common to go into cookies. This cookie here is called occhi di bue. They're traditional Italian as well. And so it's the same dough, same pastry. You bake them, and this very same jam that we've used, we've now integrated into the cookies as well.
That's amazing.
Then we have here a smaller crostata, so a smaller tart. The beautiful thing about this is that we've taken a little bit of a tiramisu, traditional tiramisu without the coffee, and we've now turned it into a peach tiramisu inside of a crostata. So it's a fantastic dessert, I assure you.
My stomach is growling.
Yeah, and for good reason, because it's so delicious. And then here, although not a crostata, what I've done is I've used the peaches not in a jam form, but I've made a cake. And there is a little bit of di Saronno in here. So some nice amaretto. So you've got the almond flavor, liqueur with the fresh peaches. Stunning, delicious, beautiful. And you're going to try them all.
Yay! So do I get to taste this delicious? Say the name again.
Crostata.
Crostata.
Absolutely, you will. There's no way that we'd be able to bake this here and not have you try it.
So you would normally serve this maybe with espresso or?
In an Italian home, absolutely an espresso.
Okay.
But for sure, you can make a tea, you can make regular coffee.
Okay.
My personal favorite beverage, though, is a Prosecco with this. And actually, when I make the jam, I extract the syrup from the jam. So that makes a beautiful compote. Drop a couple of drops of that in the Prosecco, and I assure you it's a beautiful flavor, especially for the summer. Make a nice aperitivo or a cocktail. Beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah. How's the crostata?
Oh my gosh, it's delicious.
And you see what I was talking about with the flakiness of the dough?
Yes.
And the natural flavors of the peaches. It just tastes so real, fresh, as if you just went straight to the orchard, picked the peach, and out came a crostata.
It's that simple.
It's that simple.
I want to tell you a little bit about Goodie Goodie. Goodie Goodie is a non-profit bakery offering training and jobs for refugee youth. So what's going to be happening is every Friday from 10 to 3 p.m. we're going to have a pop-up bakery at Community Christian Reformed Church at 1275 Bleams Road in Kitchener. At that time, you can come and you can buy delicious baking, and the money will go to help support this cause. Go to goodiegoodie.ca to look for the starting date and any other details. And Goodie Goodie is spelled Goodie.
While we're watching Wendy enjoying her crostata, just a reminder to go to our website, bakingforchange.ca, where you can make a small donation to UNICEF Canada. Thanks for watching, and see you next time on Baking for Change.